Hello Champagne Dreamers and welcome back to my channel. I'm your girl, Miss J. Or maybe I should say, welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are ya? So today, if you saw the title, we are looking at my 12 Jeffree Star Cosmetics palettes, and I am ranking them. We're gonna be ruthless. We're gonna put them in the order from the absolute worst to the absolute best. So if you're interested in that, we're getting into it right now. So I recently received the newest Jeffree Star Cosmetics palette, Cremated, and there is a review available on my website, janessaj.com, and I thought this might be a fun time since I have all 12 of the palettes that have been available at different times through Jeffree Star Cosmetics to go through and do a ranking. Now there are a couple of things I want to say before we get into the ranking. The first one is, I know. I hear you, I see you. I understand that some people do not like Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I absolutely respect that. If this is not the video for you, we'll be back in a week with more crazy shenanigans that are not Jeffree Star Cosmetics related. And so I am a fan of the brand. I think that for colorful, pigmented, fun shadows, I think that he has some really interesting collections and I really do like his products. And I certainly have spent a lot of time thinking about him as a person and, you know, where's the line between the person and the brand and all that sort of thing. And I really do think about people in terms of patterns of behavior. And I think that I am willing to accept the apology that he gave. And I feel like his pattern of behavior is different in terms of how he talks about and represents Black people. Now, is Jeffree Star sometimes an asshole on the internet? Absolutely. Sometimes he is absolutely rude to people who are on the internet, who are fans. Sometimes they're not even saying anything negative. But that's not something for me that I'm as concerned about. Especially because sometimes it's people who are acting like assholes. And the same thing has been said about Chi-Chi from Juvia's Place. I think that if you bring snarky, nasty energy to the internet, and you get snarky, nasty energy back from a brand owner, from whoever, maybe you deserve that, sweetheart. Maybe you should think about how you come to the internet. Maybe if you came correct, people would come correct to you. Now, sometimes with Jeffree Star, he's like misinterpreting, or he just like goes off the handle about things that don't seem to make any sense. And so I recognize that sometimes he is an asshole. I don't think he's a great person. I've stopped watching a lot of his content because it's all this sort of like humble brag, flex culture bullshit that I'm just not interested in. But as a Technicolor nightmare, as a parade float of a drag queen, I love his products and they work really well for me. And I don't have enough that I feel like I need to walk away from the brand. If you feel like you do need to walk away from the brand, I respect that. Also, another disclaimer, I do have to say that I generally like Jeffree Star's eyeshadow palettes. I like the quality, I like the pigmentation. So I am going to put them in order, and there's going to be some things I like, some things I don't like, but I am generally a fan. So this is that like usual YouTube disclaimer that if you're going to get butthurt because your favorite palette is in number 12, then I'm sorry for you. I don't know what else to tell you. This is just my ranking. If your entire self-concept roots on what I consider the best or the worst, I don't know how to help you with that. There's a 1-800 number you can call and get some help, because it's clearly I don't know how to do these disclaimers and don't really want to do them. But I just think that we all have different tastes, we all have different opinions. Like what you like. The fact that this big old bitch is saying that I like certain things and I don't like other things, that doesn't have to affect what you like. Like what you like, okay? We good? Thanks. I was inspired to do this video by Paige Koren. Hers is the video that I watched. She's been doing a few of those ranking every single palette. I think she ranked all of her Manny MUA palettes. She ranked all of her Jeffree Star and all of her Anastasia Beverly Hills. She might have mentioned somebody else that she got the idea from, but those didn't inspire me. I was inspired by Paige Koren, so I will link her video. I'll try to remember to put it up in the cards, but I'll definitely put it in the description box below. And if I can find the information about who maybe... this seems like the kind of thing, it's not a technique or style that anybody would have originated it or done it first. But if I find information about where this particular video idea comes from, I'll make sure to link that as well. So I'm going to start at my least favorite Jeffree Star Cosmetics palette, and I'll work all the way up to the top to my favorite, to the best, and I'll tell you why. And my least favorite, I'm not sorry to see her go, it's the Thirsty palette. I do not love this palette. Do not feel love for this. This was a summer collection palette a year ago, 2 years ago. I really wanted to like this palette. These shadows in the middle, if I had known that these were going to be like the precursor to all the fucking pressed glitters in palettes that we're seeing now, I would have set the world on fire then, because I hate pressed glitters in palettes to start with. These are not exactly pressed glitters. They're somewhere between like a pressed glitter and a metallic shimmer. They've got like a strong base pigment, and I just hate them. I just hate them. I don't like the way that they apply. This one has gotten such weird hard pan. They're just chunky. They're hard to remove. And the other shades in here, although I really like them, I love a good yellow. I love a good greenish turquoise. I love a good light blue cyan color. This coral is beautiful. But for some reason, the mattes in here are just chalkier than other mattes in his palettes. I don't know why that happened. I don't know what the difference is between this formula and the others. Let Jen Loves Reviews do all that ingredient stuff. I just don't really notice. I don't know what the difference is, but I notice that these are chalkier. They're not as brightly colored. So in number 12 spot, the Thirsty palette. Bye. In the number 11 spot, I have the Androgyny palette. This one, I actually don't mind as much. I think the formula is beautiful, but there's a little problem. Overall, the colors are just too dark. And I know it looks like I haven't played with this because I've gotten some palettes that were repeats in mystery boxes. And so anything that was a repeat of a palette that I already had, I decluttered the old palette and kept the new one that came in the mystery box. So even though this one looks pristine, like I haven't touched it, that's just because I got it in the Valentine's boxes. This one I have really tried to love because this dark teal and this army green and this navy, I just love the idea of them, but it's just there's so many dark colors that, first of all, I have to use this as a companion palette to other things, which I don't usually mind, but it's hard for me to work with these kind of colors. I clearly am a bright bitch, so like trying to work these in is a lot harder. So this palette is only ever a companion palette for me. I do love this shimmer shade Frosting. I think that's really pretty. And I do like the shade Safe Word, but I do think that there's a better sort of transition blending color than this in another palette that I'm going to show you a little bit later. So because of that, the quality is great. I love the quality of these. I didn't mind when he had these bigger pans. I think they're great from his two earlier palettes. It's just the color story on this one that left it at number 11. Cue the Stan Rage, because number 10 and number 9 have something in common, and that's that they are the palette from the Jeffree Star x Shane Dawson collab. I just don't love them. I'm sorry. I know I've already given you a spoiler of the next one as well, but in the number 10 spot, I have the Mini Controversy palette from the collab. And number 9, as I mentioned, is the Conspiracy palette. In the number 8 spot, I've got the brand new palette, Cremated. I do like this. I like the shades in this, but I don't need 50,000 gray shadows. I just don't. It's cute, and I think that the quality is good, and I think the shimmers are stunning and beautiful, and I really do love like these mega shimmers that he does. I think they're wonderful. But there's just too much repetition here. There's too much that's similar, too much that's the same. I did actually do a palette redesign on this on my website, janessaj.com. I'll link that in the description box as well, so you can check that out if you'd like. Because I do think that this is nice, and I think that it achieves what he wanted. Cremated, he wanted like a palette that was ashy and gray and neutral. And there's a lot of ashy gray neutrals, like that's what it is. But I think when he talked about it being a gothic fantasy, I just had other ideas for what a gothic fantasy might look like. So I did do a redesign on this. I like mine better personally, but it's again, it's another companion palette. It's like the Androgyny palette. This is something I'm going to keep to be able to use these neutrals in with other colors from his other palettes. And yeah, so it's number 8. It's not bad, but it's definitely not in the top. In the number 7 spot, I have the OG, the original, the Beauty Killer palette. I really did like this. And for the time, I think that it really was an amazing entry into the world of eyeshadow for his brand. I think the color story is not as sophisticated as some of his later palettes, but I do, if you remember like his reveal in the videos where he talked about it, I did like that you could sort of take any of the quads, any 4 that were in sort of a square next to each other, and they made like a little coherent quad that you could use for a look. You could do a full look using any of those 4 shades. Now, I have liked this palette for a lot of basic kind of things. This shade, Courtney, is the best. Oh, I love it as like a transition shade to lay it down before I do like a really colorful, blendy sort of look. China White is a great highlighting shade. This is a really fantastic shade for highlighting under the brow bone. If you don't want something shimmery, I think that that's amazing. Star Power, this hot pink, it'll stain the fuck out of your eye, but I don't care. It's beautiful, it's pigmented, it looks gorgeous. This shade Vanity is a really beautiful option to darken if you don't necessarily want a black to darken a look. If you want something that's maybe a little bit more kind of dark taupey brown, like really extreme brown. Violence is a really interesting reddish purple. Like, all of these are beautiful shades. I think that, you know, I like some of his later color stories better, but I do think that this one holds up. And I think the quality is really good. I think he launched with a pretty good palette for his first foray into eyeshadows. All right, so those were the bottom 6 palettes. Those were the ones that made it to the bottom of the list. Now we're getting into the top 6 palettes. And at the bottom of the top, number 6, we have the Bloodlust palette. So this is the sort of new before Cremated. He's starting to pump these out a lot faster. But this is one of the more recent palettes. This is the 3rd sister in the Blood series that he has. And this is the purple palette. And so this one, if you remember, comes in this kind of ridiculous packaging. I'm into it, but it is sort of ridiculous. And this is the one that's got a lot of purples. It's got some pinks. It's got this shimmery red, this black with purple glitter. And I really did like this. I did a Face Friday look where I tried to stay away from the purple and did this kind of, I used a little bit of this and this kind of teal shade and worked in some of those. And I also did a purple look with this as well. So I'm a fan of this. I liked it. I know people were complaining that they didn't feel like there was enough purple. There's a ton of purple in this palette. It's just all light to medium tone purple because he doesn't tend to really repeat shades very much. And a lot of darker purples were already in other palettes. So I kind of understand why that happened. And I'm not a one palette wonder, so I have no problem going from palette to palette to palette. And actually the purple look that I did, I think I used 4 different Jeffree Star palettes. This one, Alien, Mini Breaker, and another one. I'll link the post below so you can see which 4, because I don't even remember. But this one is a pretty good solid palette. The packaging, again, I don't really mind big packaging. This one is a little annoying even to me, but I think it's a cute idea, and I liked that it was a somewhat different sort of shape. And yeah, so this was number 6, Bloodlust. In at number 5, we have Jawbreaker. And I think a lot of people, they know my love of color, and if you saw my rainbow eyes from the previous videos, a lot of people might have assumed that this would have been my top palette, and I do like it. We're getting into the set of palettes. The top 6 really are kind of splitting hairs in terms of where I ranked things. I do really love this, and I love that it's got a really interesting just mix of shades, and I love that it's kind of a rainbow palette, but kind of not. And there just are some beautiful, beautiful shades, like this pink shimmer here, orange juice, this orange shimmer. This one, I love this color, but it's kind of trash. Like, it just doesn't work as well as you want it to. So I wish that that were better quality. And I do love this navy. I think that that's a really pretty color. There's a lot of pretty colors in here, and it's not as much of a color story to me, except just being colorful. It's like confetti, where it's not exactly a color story, it's just a celebration of color, which I think is great. I love it. But again, the palettes that come a little bit later, what really kind of pushed them above this palette is just that the colors are much more of a story rather than a collection. So in number 5, Jawbreaker. Top 4, we are in the top 4 palettes, and number 4, another one that people might be surprised because of my love of green, that it's not even maybe a little bit higher on this list, but that is the Alien palette. And I do absolutely love greens. I love green eyeshadow, and there are some beautiful green shadows in this palette. I love, love, love Alien, this bright limey green shimmer, this kind of teal-leaning green flying saucer, Abduction, this kind of swampy yellow-green. These are all beautiful, and some of them, like this Probe, that's like a deep color with a greenish, tealish undertone. I do love it, and I love this color story. I think this color story is very interesting to combine the greens with these more neutral and mustardy browns, and then this pop of purple. Like, I do think that this is really beautiful. There's the neutrals in here are not the type that I wear. I tend to lean more towards cool tone shadows, and these are much more warm toned, and I do really love it. I think it's really beautiful, but the color story is not as coherent and not as useful to me personally as some of the others that made it into the top 3. Also, these bug eye bullshit that's on the cover of this. I mean, I think that Jeffree Star's wacky packaging is phenomenal. I generally love it. However, this looks like some Claire's bullshit. Like this, I don't know how this happened. I can kind of understand why this got discontinued. Like, these bug eye things, I don't like to mess around with and alter palettes too much, but I have thought about cutting these off just because it makes it annoying to, like, store with other things. It's a weird shape. Like, this was a miss for me in terms of the packaging, so that also knocked it down a spot or two. Number 3 is the Mini Breaker palette. Mini palettes are at a little bit of a disadvantage just because there's fewer shades. So like the Mini Controversy palette from the Shane Dawson, there's not as many shades to kind of build a color story. The reason why this is so high is because this, to me, is the most coherent color story that Jeffree Star has. I feel like all of these shades together make sense to me. I feel like I know what kind of looks I can go for. I feel like you get a certain number of colors that work together. So if you wanted to do a monochromatic purple, you've got 4 purples in there. You could bring in a little bit of this pink, or you could contrast with some orange, gold. I feel like the looks in here make sense. I feel like you can get a fair number of 2 or 3 shadow looks from this palette. And I love these purples. This color right here, Oral, gorgeous. I absolutely love this. So that's why this made it into number 3, is just because I feel like this is the most coherent color story he's done yet. I think that this is really beautiful, beautiful. So well done. I used this for a Jessica Rabbit look that I did at a Days of the Dead convention for photos, where I got to take my photo with Kathleen Turner, which was amazing. She was wonderful. And I used this palette to create that look. So we are at the top 2 palettes. And if you are a Jeffree Star fan, you know what 2 palettes are left. The red palette and the blue palette. Blood Sugar and Blue Blood. And I love both of these palettes. And this really, for ranking number 2 and number 1, this is where I really felt like I was absolutely splitting hairs. Little details, little things about the color story, about the packaging. These 2, at any given day, given my mood, given my hormones, if I'm just like on a whim, like whatever's happening, I could go back and forth on which is number 1 and which is number 2 right now. Right now, for me today, number 2, Blood Sugar. I do love, love, love this palette. I love this VHS sleeve thing. I don't know that it makes sense with the palette itself, because it's like the jewelry box trunk, but it's also in a VHS sleeve. And Blood Sugar, like, there's nothing VHS-y about that. I don't get it, but I like it because I grew up in the time of VHS. I remember having things that slid into little cases like this when I was recording Gem and the Holograms after school, when it was on the first time, not in reruns. I remember back in the day, I had to figure out my stupid VCR. I love this. I think it's a beautiful color story. I love the reds. I I mean, people always have something to bitch about, right? Like, that's kind of the way humanity exists. I never got the people who are like, there's no red in this red palette. And I'm like, did you miss this entire row? This right here? I mean, I know that these kind of lean more purple, but that's the thing, is like purple is a mixture of red and blue. So at some point, if you're not just doing red, like crayon red, you have to do something to it. You have to add white to it, or add black to it, or add something to it. So these are going to lean more towards purple, but this whole row, pink. Pink is a lighter shade of red. So like there's a hot pink in here. There's a purple. Like I really thought that this was enough red. Like if it had been 18 shades of red, gag me. Like that would have been too much. Like that's just overkill. But I like that there's a whole row of a whole bunch of different shades of red, primarily all mattes, which are beautiful. And I really liked this row here with the pinks and the coral, this hot purple, this hot pink. Really, what put this into number 2 instead of number 1 for me are the neutrals. That's what I was looking for in trying to decide which one was going to be number 1 and number 2. And I am least inspired by this row of neutrals right here. Like this brown doesn't really speak to me. It looks beautiful with these reds. If you're looking to blend out a red with a brown, like that's a great brown. But these just don't speak to me the way that the neutrals in the blue palette do. And that's just because I tend towards cool colors over warm colors. I'm a cool tone. My skin tone is cool tone, so I love blues and pinks, cool, very cool tone pinks, purples, greens, all of those really cool tone shades. And so this one just not as interesting to me, but this is a gorgeous palette. And if you are looking for a red palette, if you're looking to play around with red eyeshadow, this I think is a really good palette to try a bunch of different things with red. I think that you can try like traditional red and pair it with other things to see how can I work a little bit of red in. Or you could do a red monochromatic look and just do it with this row. Or use this neon red in with other bright colored shades like the pink and the purple. You know, there's so many different ways that you could use this palette. It really is beautiful. If you're looking to explore red because you've been red curious and you just haven't gotten into it, I would say that the Blood Sugar palette is a wonderful, wonderful option. So that means my number 1 spot, obviously, Blue Blood. I do really, really love this palette. I think it's gorgeous. I love the coffin look. I'm into it. I love this blue. And this, for some reason, this does not look cheap to me the way the Conspiracy palette did. I don't know. There's something about when it's all cardboard versus having that metal piece in the middle. I don't know if it was that changed it for me or what it was. I do love this beautiful little lock. My latch is kind of loose, but it's still cute. I did do a Face Friday look using this palette recently. This is one that I have used a lot. You can't tell because I did get one of these in a mystery box. And so I decluttered my old one that had gotten a fair amount of use. And then now I've been playing around with this one a little bit and I've used it a couple times. But this, I love blue eyeshadow. Some days I want to be a woman in stonewashed jeans in the 80s whose name is Donna and she drives a gold Trans Am and just has blue eyeshadow. Like that's my life. I want that to be my life some days. And so I love the blues. And I love that there's this kind of neonish kind of blue, which is a little fussy, but it's wonderful. And I love that then from the blues, we also start leaning into like turquoises and a little bit more kind of teal. So I love this kind of turquoisey color, this more minty green blue, this very kind of turquoisey leaning matte is beautiful. And then we've got some grays as well. So we have some gray blues that I think this palette paired with Cremated could bring some beautiful color into that Cremated palette. And I think just the neutrals in here, they tend to be a little bit more on the cooler side or just the less brown side, like that brown. I don't use a lot of like deep, medium to deep browns. I just don't. Like I am an Easter piñata. Like I need color. And so having these kind of shades like this bright peach, this bright pink, these kind of more just transition-y shades, that's what I need instead of more chocolate browns. Like I just don't do chocolate brown looks. I just don't. So this is my number 1. I do love all of the Jeffree Star palettes. Some of them I'm not that in love with Thirsty, you know what I mean? But, so I hope you enjoyed. That was number 1. Let me know down in the comments below Am I talking out of my ass? Am I right? What do you think? How would you rank your palettes? Which palettes did you not even buy because you weren't interested? What do you think about the color stories? Let me know all about your thoughts on all of these palettes, how you would rank them. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please think about giving me that thumbs up on the way out. That really does help. It's free. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can hit the bell icon so that you can get notification of all future uploads. If you would like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, all of my social media will be linked in the description box below. And don't forget to visit my website, The World of Champagne, at janessaj.com. Thanks so much for watching, and until I see you again, bye. Hello, Champagne Dreamers, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your girl, Miss J. Or should I say, welcome, as I like, ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk. Alright, so I recently received the newest Jeffree Star Cosmetics palette.
Cremated.
Cremated, I know. Has the car icon made it onto the map yet? Okay. If your entire self-concept roots on what I consider the best or the worst, I don't know how to help you with that. There's a 1-800 number you can call and get some help. Oh, actually, before I get into this, cut.